Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. Great news, everyone. It is Friday. And of course, that means FOMO Friday. And today we want to bring you all good news this week. There is a lot of good news going on. If you're not listening to propaganda media, you probably don't know all about it. Yeah, there's some things that you may have heard, but we want to bring you the true stories. We want to bring you what you need to know. And we do that here every Friday with our Fear of Missing Out report and FOMO Friday. Well, from a series of articles from the Daily Wire comes the big news of the week, and that is President Donald Trump's address to a joint session of Congress. But before the speech could even get going very long, Democrats made good on their promise to disrupt it. House Speaker Mike Johnson booted Democratic Representative Al Green, not the singer, but the congressman. He's from Texas. He's from the Houston area. He got booted from the House chamber on Tuesday night during President Donald Trump's address to a joint session of Congress. Trump was only minutes into his speech when Democrats erupted in protest, throwing the speech off, and Johnson had to use his gavel to restore order to the chamber. Afterwards, Green refused to sit down and continued to yell toward the House Speaker and the President, saying, and then, of course, Johnson had to say, "Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir." And directing Green to do so, though Green continued to stand and yell and wave his cane at Trump. Johnson then directed that Green be removed from the chamber in order to restore decorum. Quote, finding the members that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the sergeant at arms to restore order, remove this gentleman from the chamber. This is what Johnson said. And of course, the sergeant at arms then escorted Green from the chamber. Our brain trust over at The View thought that the rest of the Democrats should have followed him, but they didn't. They stayed to wave their paddles and then walk out every now and again on certain parts. But anyway, here's another quote from Johnson. He says, "Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House. Mr. President, you may continue." Outside the chamber, actually, Green spoke with reporters and said that before Johnson ordered him removed from the chamber, Green had been shouting that Trump had no mandate. That's what he was yelling at. No mandate to cut Medicaid, according to the White House pool. And Trump has repeatedly said he will not touch Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. So again, this was just grandstanding for no reason whatsoever. Quote, "It's worth it to let people know that there are some people who are going to stand up to Trump." This is what Green said. Okay. He added that he does not know if he will be formally punished for being removed from the House chamber. And he does know now because as of Thursday, he was censured. And so, which means he can't speak on the floor. This was not a good look for Democrats. Democratic political strategist David Axelrod admitted that his party reacted poorly to President Donald Trump's speech on Tuesday. Axelrod appeared on a CNN panel alongside other commentators on Tuesday night after Trump's address. And in a back and forth with CNN commentator Scott Jennings, Axelrod and Democratic lawmakers in the joint session should have been more respectful to the president and more positive toward the speech. This is what he said. He said, "I will say, I thought Democrats, I think there were when they should have risen. I think what Al Green did was despicable. I liked Alyssa Slotkin's speech." it was bad too. But anyway, he says, I think that's where Democrats should go. Well, Senator Elisa Slotkin delivered the Democrats' response to Trump's address. Jenny said that Slotkin's speech, no matter how well received it may be, will not matter because of the Democrats' antics. Quote, I'm sure she is a very nice person. None of this will be remembered because this is a horrific night for the opposition party, regardless of how well she just spoke, Jennings said. That was Jennings actually even saying that. He said that it started out with Al Green getting thrown off the House floor because he couldn't keep his emotions under control. And then he had the ridiculous paddles, which now social media is roasting. You may have seen a few of the memes out there. Yeah, there's some pretty funny ones. And he also says, and maybe most terribly, the Democrats who couldn't find it in their hearts to stand for objectively good things, including the 95-year-old mother of Mark Fogel, and Mark who got rescued from a Russian prison, and they couldn't even stand up for that, he said. Well, I like Britt Hume said about the speech. He said that the Democrats seem to be falling into trap after trap after trap as he recognizes people and celebrated the people he pointed to in the gallery and their stories, while the Democrats sat glumly on their hands through all of it. It was a terrible look, Hume continued. He says, Al Green, his attempt to disrupt the speech was a bad look for Democrats, and this was pretty powerful stuff, politically speaking, as powerful as I think I've heard. And the analysis of all of this, of what people thought of the speech, is very encouraging. President Donald Trump's address to the joint session of Congress was broadly well received by Americans who watched it, according to multiple polls after the speech. CNN found that 69% of watchers had a positive reaction to the speech, with a polarity of 44 having a very positive reaction. A survey from, get this, CBS News even, it was a YouGov poll, found a similar result, with 76% of watchers reporting a positive response. I mean, that's 3 and 4. That is unheard of in the political realm. In addition to viewers having a positive reaction, most speech watchers, 63%, reported to CBS News that Trump spent time on issues important to each viewer. The speech also elicited feelings of hope, 68%, and pride, 54%. Well, it did. I mean, it was that kind of speech. Trump himself came off as presidential and entertaining. In fact, 74% of the viewers thought that. Inspiring, 71% thought that. And unifying, 62% thought that as well. 46% said Trump appeared divisive. so yeah, you've got your hardcore Democrats there. But one of Trump's big announcements of the night was the capture of a terrorist behind the attack on the Kabul airport's Abbey Gate during the 2021 U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. The president announced that ISIS operative Mohammed Sharifullah had been captured. Quote, 3.5 years ago, ISIS terrorists killed 13 American service members and countless others in the Abbey Gate bombing during the disastrous, incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan. Not that they were withdrawing, it was the way they withdrew, Trump said. And he also said, perhaps the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. Tonight, I'm pleased to announce that we have just apprehended the top terrorist responsible for the atrocity, and he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice. So that was awesome, right? But you know, the Democrats couldn't clap, nothing for even that. But I think the most moving portion of the speech was when President Donald Trump honored DeVarjay, or they just call him DJ Daniel. Daniel, who was diagnosed with brain cancer at the age of 6 and has undergone more than a dozen surgeries since, has always dreamed of being a police officer, and was previously actually sworn in as an honorary deputy chief by the number a number of different law enforcement agencies, including the Birmingham Police Department. And here's what Trump said. He says, "Tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all." He said, "I am asking our Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to make you an agent of the United States Secret Service." Well, you should have seen it. Daniel's eyes grew wide as he realized what was going on. And after accepting his new badge from Curran, he leaned forward to hug the Secret Service director. It was quite a moving experience. And here's a quote: "Honorary Secret Service with a badge and everything. This is awesome." His surprised, sweet face. This is what Dana Loesch, who is a radio host, posted in reaction to the moment. Somebody else said that this is the first time I can remember crying during a State of the Union. Thank you, President Trump. This is so beautiful. That was Meghan McCain. Actually, Meghan McCain, her father was the late Senator John McCain, who, of course, died of brain cancer. And that's what she posted. Anyone who has been impacted by brain cancer knows how special this is, she said. And Jason Houghton, he added, "This speech rocks." And it kind of did. I mean, he was able, if you really break the speech down, he was able to put the Democrats on the 20 side of all the 80-20 issues. Everything he covered, if you poll Americans, they're like 80% are in favor of the things that Trump was saying, and it put the Democrats on the 20% side. So just a kind of a masterful, really, speech. He put it together, a lot of momentum from it, and so if you missed it, yeah, I'm sure you can probably YouTube and see the whole thing. But it is like it's an hour and 45 minutes or something, so it's a long speech. Well, turning from that though, again, more good news. But Argentinian conservative President Javier Milei has agreed to unseal records hidden for decades that would reveal how Credit Suisse and its predecessor banks helped finance escaping Nazis after World War II so they could evade justice. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting one. In mid-February, Iowa GOP Senator Charles Grassley, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee investigating Credit Suisse historical Nazi connections, sent Milei a letter requesting him to unseal the records. He says, "I continue to fight to shine the light on the wrongs and the injustices from this darkest chapter in history." This is what Grassley wrote. And he said that this includes decades-long efforts to track the Nazis, confiscation of all kinds of Jewish valuables and cash. Speaking of former U.S. Inspector General Neil Brofsky, who was appointed as the independent ombudsman person to, I guess they call him ombudsman, not ombudsman anymore. It's ombudsperson. I don't know. It's a mouthful. Anyway, he stated, despite the bank's best efforts at obstruction, Mr. Borowski has uncovered a significant connection between Credit Suisse and many individuals who helped Nazis flee Europe after World War II via the rat lines, which are monetary and logistic pathways used by Credit Suisse and other institutions to help Nazis escape justice and relocate to Argentina, among other countries. But Borowski had been hired by Credit Suisse in 2021 after the Simon Wiesenthal Center found additional information regarding the possible Nazi connection. But he was fired when the bank felt that he had gone too far. Okay. Oh, he's starting to get into things he shouldn't, and okay, you're gone. He was reinstated, though, in 2023 after Union Bank of Switzerland, the UBS, rescued Credit Suisse. And in 2024, Borowski told the U.S. Senate Banking Committee that the UBS had fully opened its archives. Two separate panels said that Swiss bankers routinely ignored Nazi stealing Jewish assets and also later blocked families' efforts to reclaim their money. Quote, the goal and motivation behind this work is to bring about justice and transparency. This is Grassley, okay? Regardless of how much time passes, the truth is worth pursuing, and the stories of this dark time period are worth telling and making part of historical record for future generations. I'm copying President Trump on this letter because my investigative work is being done out of profound respect for the brave and courageous men and women of the United States Armed Forces who fought against Hitler and the Nazis and freed the courageous Jewish people from those evils, a sentiment that he would most assuredly agree with, unquote. So that's good news, right? So we'll go ahead and keep an eye on this story, and as Melee releases the documents, we'll see about covering that and see where this story goes. Well, another very good news article here about the pro-life movement. We've covered on the podcast a number of times about those that were convicted under the FACE Act of oftentimes just sitting near an abortion clinic and peacefully demonstrating their thoughts and opinions on abortion. And nearly a year after a Nashville jury convicted many of them on federal conspiracy charges over a peaceful pro-life protest, a group of pro-life Christians reunited to celebrate their pardons from President Donald Trump's recount and recount their time in prison and encourage each other in the fight against abortion. In the years since they had last been all together, two had gone to prison, one was slated to go to prison, and the rest were restricted from traveling and owning guns and voting and all that kind of stuff because it was felony charges. But thanks to Trump's January 23rd pardons of the nearly 24 pro-lifers targeted by the Biden administration, 10 of the pardoned traveled last week for a reunion at the Patriot Church just outside of Knoxville. 6 of those who were pardoned made the trek to East Tennessee, all of whom were convicted on felony conspiracy charges in January of 2024 over a sit-in at a now closed Mount Juliet, Tennessee abortion facility. Each of them had faced over a decade in prison. Other pardoned pro-lifers in attendance at the reunion were Paul Place, Eva Edel, and Eva Zastro, who were convicted on a lesser freedom of access to clinic entrance, or FACE Act, charges in Nashville, and Justin Phillips, who was convicted in August on conspiracy charges over a pro-life protest at a Michigan abortion facility. Stephen Leflemine, who spent 60 days in prison after sitting in front of the door to a South Carolina abortion facility, also was in attendance. He did not apply for a pardon because he wanted to continue to fight the FACE Act. So he believes it's unconstitutional. I believe it's unconstitutional. And if he was pardoned, then he has no recourse in trying to take the FACE Act to court and to get it overturned as unconstitutional. So he didn't want the pardon. Now, this reunion featured a potluck dinner, Christian worship songs, and testimonies from the pardoned pro-lifers. I thought this was interesting. Here's a quote. It says, "I was in prison. I'm out of prison just like that, by one man's signature, by a declaration that way. I was pardoned from prison by the President of the United States." This is what Zastro said on Wednesday. Zastro, who was imprisoned in Thompson Federal Correction Institute in Illinois, said that he didn't expect to be pardoned based on his experience with previous politicians. he 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 says he'd worked on some political campaigns before, had seen them not do what they promised, and just didn't have a whole lot of hope there. But he thanked the crowd for their letters and phone calls to his wife, saying God used your lobbying for a pardon. And he added that he wasn't afraid of prison because of his faith. He said it's because I just get so close to Jesus. I press in so close to Jesus, and I just receive and accept his love for me, and I just channel that out to other people, he said. He recounted several stories from prison, including one involving a prison guard whom he said used to swear at the prisoners when they were in line for food. And Zastra said that one day the guard took God's name in vain, and he responded by saying, "Praise your name, O Jesus." And after which the prisoners standing around him backed away from him, because he said no one ever talked while they were in line for food. Everyone stopped for a moment before Zastra said that the prison guard responded by saying, "Amen." he said that was the last time he ever swore at us and took the Lord's name in vain. Heather Idoni, another one of those who was freed from prison, also spoke about the prison and what gave that and how it gave her an opportunity to share her faith. She's joking that she had a captive audience for the gospel. She said, "Prison is the best federally funded mission trip that you can go on. Everywhere I went, there were women hungry for the Lord," she said. They didn't. Well, some didn't know it yet. But do you know what I got to tell them? I got to say, I've been praying for you for 2 years, and now I didn't even know who you were. Well, Idoni, who was convicted on the FACE Act and felony conspiracy charges in Nashville, Detroit, and D.C., had been in prison since the summer of 2023 before she was freed in January. And she previously spoke about how she had shuttled from prison to prison, exacerbating some of her health issues and challenges there. Quote, "God was keeping me every day, his peace, his presence, not one day without it," she said. But Idoni and Zastrow met new grandchildren for the first time when they were released from prison. And the final pardoned pro-lifer to speak was the 89-year-old Eva Edel. We've spoken about her and shared her story here on the podcast. She spoke about her experience surviving a communist prison camp in Yugoslavia as a young girl. And Edel said that witnessing Nazis targeting Jews and the communists targeting her people group because of her ethnic heritage motivated her to fight for the dehumanization or against the dehumanization of the unborn. Both of her parents were taken prisoner during World War II, and she was sent to a prison camp at the age of 9. The Nazis had taken my daddy, she said. The Russians had taken my mother and my grandfather to dig ditches on the Russian side. She was shipped in a cattle car to the camp and nearly died of starvation while she was mistreated horribly by the prison guards, saying that people were eating rats and rats were eating people. During her time in prison, she said that she got her hands on a Christian prayer book, which was more important to me than the food itself that I was craving. And she also said that when you have that closeness and that peace, you lose the fear of anything else. Edel, her mother, brother, and sister eventually escaped to Austria before immigrating to America in the 1950s. Witnessing the horrific way that people were demonized motivated Edel to become outspoken pro-lifer, and she began engaging in sit-ins at abortion facilities around the country. When pardoned, she was facing sentencing for a felony conspiracy charge after she sat outside an abortion facility in Sterling Heights, Michigan in 2020. She could have been sentenced And again, this is an 89-year-old woman. Okay, she could have been sentenced to over a decade in federal prison before receiving a pardon from Trump. Edel closed her testimony by urging churches to engage. She She wanted to encourage adoption and support women in crisis pregnancies. She said that she always wished that someone had stood up for her back when she was thrown into the prison camp, and that people should stand up for the unborn today. She turns 90 in May and is determined, as determined as ever, to fight for the unborn. And while they've been pardoned, the shakeout of the Biden pro-life prosecutions are still being played out in court as lawyers for defendants are attempting to present arguments that the FACE Act would be ruled unconstitutional and void. So you might want to just lift up a prayer for that this week. In other news, again, this is good. James Denny, the head of the FBI's New York field office, was forced out of the bureau on Monday. Well, Denny's ouster comes just weeks after he sent an email to his staffers encouraging them to dig in as the Trump administration probed the FBI investigation into January 6th Capitol riot. Denny was directed to resign or be fired on Friday. Two people familiar with the matter told NBC News this. Quote, late Friday, I was informed that I needed to put my retirement papers in today, which I just did, is what Denny said in an email to his staff on Monday. He says, I was not given a reason for this decision. Okay, he knows why. Quote, I have an immense feeling of pride to have represented an office of professionals who will always do the right thing for the right reasons, who will always seek the truth while upholding the rule of law. This is what Denny said, according to CNN. He says, I've been told many times in my life, when you find yourself in a hole, sometimes it's best to quit digging. Screw that, he says. I will never stop defending this joint. I'll just do it willingly and proudly from outside the wire. Well, Denny's has led the New York field office since September. Last month, after Department of Justice officials requested the names of FBI agents who worked on January 6 cases, Denny encouraged the staff to resist that. And so obviously that is a big portion of why he's gone, right? Well, lastly, I have to share with you, this is really cute. And this is, it's, I'm not saying you do this at home, okay? But a little toddler found a cell phone that wasn't being used, and of course, all cell phones can dial 911, whether they have a SIM card in them or not. And Ben Hooper of UPI was able to get a hold of the 911 call that this little toddler made. So I wanted to play this for you because it's pretty cute, and and also it's about emergency donuts.
More 911, what's the address of your emergency?
What?
Hello, more 911.
What?
Hello?
Yes?
Do you have an emergency?
Oh, yes. I do you be
Hello?
Donuts.
Donuts? I want donuts.
I'm sorry, baby.
Are you going to share your donuts?
I'm taking it, mommy.
You're going to take me to mommy now?
Hey, Mom, won't. What is this donut? Yes. Of course. What is this donut?
Hello?
What is this donut?
Can I talk to Mom?
Bye. What did you say? What is this donut? That's all.
I want some donuts. Are you going to share your donuts?
Donuts.
Can you tell me what kind of donuts you have? Do you have blueberry donuts?
Donuts.
An emergency?
Emergency donut.
Are you going to share?
Right now.
You're not. Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Can I talk to Mom?
Emergency donut.
All right. So I don't know if you need emergency donuts. I wouldn't suggest you dial 911 for them, but apparently it's been done. So anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Maybe you've had some serious emergency donut cravings. Would love to hear from you on it. Of course, you can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. Thank you very much for listening. This podcast is a production of Morganite Communications.